I miss your face, you guys.
Do you miss me? I miss you.
Yeah, we do. Definitely we do.
It's not the same being here without them.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
We'll make it through, though.
Yep, we will. And this is your Lesson 17 podcast. This lesson is Mexicano contributions to the Southwest. You have 2 vocabulary words, irrigation and Mexicanos.
Okay, all right. And then we have the guiding question, which is how have Mexicano contributions influenced life in the United States?
I love your accent.
I'm doing my best. My 5 years of Spanish, I'm good.
All right. We're going to start with talking about mining. Mining in the West developed in 3 waves, gold, silver, and copper. And each wave depended on the contributions of Mexicano miners. Mexicanos came to the Southwest with a rich mining tradition and knowledge of where to look for precious metals and how to get them out of the ground.
All right, first with gold mining. The Americans who rushed to California in 1849 had many skills, but they knew nothing about mining. Mexicanos introduced them to the batea, or the gold pan, that miners used to scoop up mud from stream beds.
Mexicanos also brought the rifle box to the gold fields. The bottom of this long box was crossed with pieces of wood called rifles. As mud washed through the box, the heavy gold sank and became trapped behind the rifles.
I think it's riffles.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, double. It's riffles, but we're good. It's the same kind of thing.
It's
riffles.
Like the riffles chips.
Yep, there you go. Ruffles have ridges. All right, now we got to silver and copper mining. A Mexicano miner sparked the West's first big silver strike. In 1859, a prospector named Henry Comstock was in Nevada looking for gold, which was mixed with a lot of worthless blue stuff. One day, a Mexicano miner looked at the blue stuff and started shouting, mucha plata, which means much silver, much silver.
Mexicanos discovered copper in the Southwest in the early 1800s. By 1940, Arizona miners had produced $3 billion worth of copper.
Moly.
Copper that carried electricity and telephone calls to millions of homes across America.
All right, now a little bit more about cattle ranching, which we kind of learned a little bit about with the Californios in the last lesson. With cattle so abundant, Californios and Tejanos found ranching to be good business, as did the Americans who learned the cattle business from Mexican rancheros or ranchers.
Mm-hmm. In the arid Southwest, large grants of land were needed to provide enough food and water for cattle herds. The main products of ranchos were meat, hides, and tallow. And you guys know that tallow is fat.
Yep. Caring for the cattle was the work of hired vaqueros, or cowboys.
Okay, we're going to talk about the roundup. Among the vaqueros' most important job were the rodeo, or roundup, and branding. Branding, or using a hot iron to burn a mark into the hide of cattle, was essential because herds belonging to different owners mixed together on unfenced grasslands. To avoid conflicts, all owners had to mark their cattle with a distinctive brand.
All right, right on. Moving on to the cowboy. All right, so the cowboy. From head to toe, cowboys dressed in clothing borrowed from the vaqueros. Mexicanos also invented the Western or cowboy saddle with its useful horn.
Right. Cowboys borrowed another essential piece of gear from the vaqueros, la
riata,
yeah. Or the lariat.
Yep.
Vaqueros were masters of the art of throwing a 60-foot rope great distances with amazing accuracy, a skill that was especially useful for roping calves during roundup.
All right, we can also thank the cowboys for cowboy lingo. Okay, American cowboys borrowed or adapted many ranching words from the vaqueros. Terms such as bronco, stampede, corral, lasso, burro, buckaroo, and vamoose all come from Spanish Mexican words.
And of course, the terms ranch and rancher came from rancho and ranchero.
All right, moving on to sheep raising. In New Mexico, you guys, the most important industry was sheep raising. From the founding of the territory up to the Mexican cession, sheep fed, clothed, and supported Spanish and Mexican settlers.
Under the Spanish system, sheep raising was a large and well-organized business. The Spanish governor of New Mexico, for example, once owned 2 million sheep and employed 2,700 workers.
That's a lot of sheep and a lot of workers. Yeah. At the top of this business stood the patron, or the owner of the herds, and below him were several layers of managers.
The lowest level worker was the pastor, or herder, who was responsible for 1,500 to 2,000 sheep. A pastor stayed with his flock night and day, slowly guiding it from place to place so that the sheep could graze as they moved.
All right. Now, Americans soon adopted the Spanish system as their own, and large scale sheep raising spread from New Mexico across the Southwest.
Okay. And now we're going to talk about irrigated farming. Mexicano settlers in the Southwest brought with them irrigation techniques that had been developed centuries earlier in Spain and North Africa. They borrowed other techniques from the Pueblo Indians of New Mexico.
Okay, all right. They began by building a dam of rocks, earth, and brush across a stream. The water that backed up behind the dam was brought into the fields by irrigation ditches that they dug.
Yeah. Using crops introduced by Mexicanos in the Mexican system of irrigation, American settlers turned the Southwest into America's fruit basket.
All right. With the help of Mexicano farm workers, American farmers transformed dry deserts into irrigated fruit orchards and citrus groves. We're living right in the middle of that kind of stuff.
Sure are. Yeah. Okay, next we're going to talk about food.
Yum.
Yeah, I love Mexican
I know,
food.
me too.
Okay. The Spanish came to Mexico in search of gold, but the greatest treasures they found were American Indian foods, unknown in Europe, including corn, tomatoes, chocolate, peanuts, vanilla beans, squash, avocados, coconuts, sunflower seeds, and chili peppers.
In turn, the Spanish brought the foods of Europe to Mexico.
Yeah. Mexican cooks combined these foods with diverse origins to create a rich and flavorful style of cooking that was neither Indian nor Spanish. It was distinctly Mexican.
And thank goodness for that. All right. Moving on to another area of Mexicano contributions was architecture. Okay, Spanish-style architecture took root in Mexico during the colonial period.
Since wood was scarce in the Southwest, Mexicanos used adobe, bricks, as their main building material. Adobe is a mixture of earth, grass, and water that is shaped into bricks and baked in the sun.
Many adobe buildings featured patios and verandas, which were also pretty unique to Spanish architecture.
Yeah. Because of their thick walls, adobe structures stayed cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter than the wood buildings that Americans from the East were used to. Adobe structures could also be easily constructed from the locally available materials.
All right, moving into laws. Okay, there were actually gold, copper, and silver mining. They needed to have some laws that were going to kind of rules that people needed to follow. With the help of Mexicano miners, Americans developed a law of the mines based on Mexican mining law.
Yeah, and they realized they also needed laws in regards to water.
Mm-hmm.
Pueblo law said that water was too valuable to be owned or controlled by any one person, and instead it belonged to an entire community to be used for the benefit of all.
Okay, all right. We also had some community property laws that were added. For women, the most important legal principle borrowed from Mexican law was the idea of community property. In eastern states, married women had few property rights. Any property acquired by a married couple, such as a home, a farm, or a business, belonged solely to the husband. Sorry, ladies.
In contrast, Mexican law said that all property acquired during a marriage was community property. If a couple separated, half of the property belonged to the wife and half to the husband.
Which is a pretty good way for, at least you're paying attention to ladies and their rights.
Yeah.
All right. There also were some contributions in the area of entertainment, especially like music and dancing. Mexicano music greatly influenced country and Western music in the Southwest. The most important contribution was the corrido, or folk ballad, which is a dramatic story sung to the accompaniment of guitars. The subjects of corridos range from exciting tales of heroes and bandits to sad songs of love and betrayal.
Mm-hmm. Throughout the year, Mexicanos held a variety of religious fiestas. One of the most important honored Our Lady of Guadalupe, the patron saint of Mexico. In San Antonio, Texas, Tejanos marked this day with an elaborate procession to the cathedral. After attending church services, the Tejanos danced all night long in their homes.
All right, you guys, this has been kind of a long podcast, but in this particular podcast, you learned about Mexicano contributions to the Southwest and how they influenced life in the United States in the area of mining, cattle, cowboys, and sheep,
farming and food, architecture, laws, and entertainment.
All right, you guys, hasta luego.
Okay, I'm out of here.